Hey guys, welcome to the channel. In this episode, I'm going to share with you how I healed my body by persisting in the assumption. And I'll be fully honest, I came across the teachings of Neville Goddard roughly a year ago, and I started believing in it probably, I think, maybe 5 or 6 months ago, since I started working very closely with my spiritual mentor, and I saw rapid transformations very quickly. But now, in retrospect, when I think of my journey to heal my body, I was actually unconsciously using the law of assumption. So roughly 3 years ago, I was at this place where I couldn't walk for more than 30 minutes. And within a year, I went to running a 15K, training in Muay Thai, and going backcountry camping that involved hiking somewhere between 10 to 16 kilometers a day. And now looking back upon it, it required me going against the grains, rejecting conventional medical advice, and persisting in the assumption that my pain is not being caused by structural deformities in my body, but because I don't feel a sense of safety. And the way all of that unfolded, none of that is logical. So I took a trip with my then girlfriend to Mexico, and interestingly, I immediately went from not being able to walk for 30 minutes to walking for 4 hours a day without any problem. But then I came back to where I was living at that time and went back to being the way I was. But because I was convinced that the nature of my problem is not organic, my subconscious kept a note of that. And at this point, doctors are prescribing painkillers. So if you have ever been on a painkiller, you know it has this numbing effect, which can have all sorts of consequences when it comes to our mental health. Both of my parents are doctors, and my dad was heavily insisting on me going for surgery. And I was considering it too. But somewhere deep down, I knew that this is not the solution. So I was looking for more holistic solutions that doesn't require surgical intervention. And that led me to the door of one of the best spine experts in the world, Dr. Stuart McGill. Now, the key thing to note is Dr. McGill he's a man of science. His expertise is in biomechanics, and he is a proponent of the idea that back problems are caused by movement patterns, and there is physics behind it. So I went to his place and for an assessment, and his assessments are long. It usually takes 4 hours. It's also very expensive. And at this point, I have spent probably, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars to heal myself with chiros, physios, doctors. So pretty much I have left no stone unturned. And then he is my last resort because I'm fully convinced if he can't heal me, healing is just not for me. I'll have to be like this for the rest of my life. So anyways, he was assessing me in his basement, and like I mentioned, the assessment is long, and I was walking around between the assessments because the way he does it is 2 hours of work with a patient and then a little bit of a break because it gets exhausting, and then another 2 hours. And as I was walking in his basement, I noticed a book called Crooked. So it piqued my interest, and I went over the foreword, and basically it's written by this investigative journalist who had 3 surgeries, and it just worsened her condition. And then she went on a crusade to unravel what is going on with the back pain industry. And I was like, interesting. And the reason that book was there was because she interviewed Dr. McGill as well on his take. Anyways, so after the consult, I went back home, I ordered myself a copy of the book, and I started reading. A little bit of context before that. By this point, I'm already familiar with the idea of how the brain causes pain with very little stimuli when it doesn't feel a sense of safety, which can be caused by trauma and anxiety, and is a common pattern with people who had difficult upbringings. And a part of me was like, this is where the root of the problem is. So that was my assumption, but that was consistently being challenged by the environment around me, or the 3D reality, because my parents didn't buy into that idea, nor did a lot of experts and doctors that I was seeing. They had a degree of openness to it, and at the same time, they'll look into the x-rays and MRIs and be like, okay, you have these organic deformities, which is what's causing the pain. And the way to solve that problem is surgery. So my assumption that I could be healed in a non-surgical, holistic way was consistently being challenged. I was also being told things like, why do you have to work out? Why the need to work out? Just walk. You have to be gentle with your body. Yeah, things like that. But then this book happened. And in the second part of the book, the author talks about what has actually worked for people. And the way she figured that out is by talking to specialists in the field who has their very non-conventional ways of dealing with back pain patients and achieving phenomenal results. There's this one medical doctor in Boston who runs this clinic where if you go see 70-year-old grandmas walking around carrying crates of bricks, and his take was, you have already been miserable by trying to prevent the pain by not working out or being scared of the sensations. Why don't you try doing the things you want instead? That sounds like Neville. How Neville would ask his students to test out the law of assumption and tell them that they don't really have anything to lose. Just test the law and see for yourself. So now my mind was like, okay, this guy is a medical doctor. He has healed many people by taking this approach of believing that you're already healed and then going about the things that you want to do, of course in a graded way. This doesn't mean that you can barely walk and immediately you start training for a marathon. My brain suddenly had permission to try that out. And I have always wanted to do it, even when I was not being able to walk for 30 minutes. Because the way that it would work is I would start walking and feel intense pain and then just stop. But a part of me always wanted to challenge that. But I refrained because I was constantly being told that how I'm gonna hurt myself even more. But now I had permission. And I started doing all sorts of things. I started lifting weights little by little. I started running. So I started with 1 kilometers initially and then went to 2. And to my surprise, I noticed oftentimes what ended up happening was the pain kicked in and then it subsided. So I was just not threatened by the pain anymore. And I kept at it. And I kept at it. And I let all the voice that was suggesting otherwise drown. And eventually, I ran a 15K with my friend. I have had moments on the treadmill when I started running, and all of my body was hurting, not just my back. And there's a name for this. It's called fibromyalgia. And many a times, I have calmed my nervous system down in the moment on the treadmill by doing affirmations. Affirmations like I am safe, I am protected, and feeling into it, which is again persisting in the assumption. And then I went on running for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Again, none of this is to say that organic conditions doesn't exist or to invalidate modern medicine. It's just that might not be your problem. See, truly assumptions harden into facts. My assumption from the very beginning was there are countless evidence of people healing their body using their minds, and that can happen for me too. So when I'd hear instances of decade-long chronic pain being healed by doing plant medicine, I didn't dismiss it thinking it's all woo spiritual mumbo jumbo. When I heard people's success stories on podcasts, in books, well, I couldn't fully believe, in all honesty, that that could happen for me. There was openness. And that openness led to a bridge of incidents like that, like me randomly noticing that book in the house of a man whose approach is radically different from the mind-body approach. The universe does work in mysterious ways. And I'll be fully honest with you. It's not like my back pain is gone and it never happens. But what I have now is a fully functional life where I'm very comfortable going after the things that I want. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm stronger than I ever was. And I have a very different relationship to my pain. So if there is something in your life that you're deeply struggling with right now, I invite you to choose an assumption where that problem is solved. And then persist in the assumption. Stay in the wish fulfilled. Flood your body with the feelings of that wish fulfilled. And that then would lead to inspired action. You'll move one step in the right direction, and the bridge of incidents will unfold, synchronicities will happen, and you will be open to receiving them. What have you got to lose? Nothing. I just wanted to leave you guys with that message. Thank you for being here. I love you. See you in the next video.